Welcome back to Mia Horror Stories. Tonight's tale, My Reflection Does Follow Me Anymore, is best experienced in the dark, which is why the screen will stay black. No distractions, no flashing images, just you, your imagination, and the story. So sit back, relax, and listen all the way to the end, if you dare. The first time it happened, I blamed the lighting. It was that late winter kind of light you get in New York City when the sun is technically up, but the day still feels like it's holding its breath. My bathroom window faced a narrow air shaft, brick on 3 sides, someone's old satellite dish jutting out like a bent spoon. The overhead fixture buzzed faintly, cheap LED that had started to complain when it warmed up, and the mirror had a thin fog of toothpaste speckle, no matter how often I wiped it. I was already running late. I had the electric toothbrush in my mouth, elbow on the sink, and I was half watching myself, half watching the clock on my phone propped against the soap dispenser. There was a beat where my reflection didn't move, not in a dramatic way, not like it turned its head or smiled when I didn't. Just a tiny mismatch, like a lag in a video call. My wrist lifted. I saw my actual wrist lift in my peripheral vision. But in the mirror, the toothbrush hand hesitated, an eyelash of time, then caught up. I froze, toothbrush buzzing against my molars, the sound suddenly too loud in that small room. The kind of loud where you realize the walls are thin, and there are neighbors on the other side, and you've been living alone long enough that you forget other people can hear you. I leaned closer to the glass. My eyes looked normal. Tired, sure. A little red around the rims from too much screen time. The faint crease between my brows that had gotten used to after 30. I lifted my left hand and waggled my fingers. This time it matched. Okay, I said around the toothbrush, which came out as okay, and sounded like I was talking to a dog. I spat, rinsed, and tried to laugh at myself. The faucet rattled when I turned it off, a loose washer I kept telling myself I'd fix. The mirror was old, probably original to the pre-war building. Its edges darkened under the glass, where silvering had started to go. I'd noticed that when I moved in a kind of permanent bruise around the perimeter, and I'd thought charming, vintage, like I was in a movie where people wore nice coats and bought bread from corner shops and had problems that were poetic. The laugh didn't really land. It stayed in my throat, half-formed. I dried my hands on the towel that always smelled faintly of detergent, and underneath it, something sour, because I kept forgetting to wash it often enough, because I kept thinking I'd have time later. I checked my phone. 8:12. My meeting with Nina started at 8:45, and she lived 2 avenues over, and the MTA didn't care about my calendar. I grabbed my jacket, patted my pockets for keys, and called, "Milo, you coming?" A muffled thump came from the living room, then a small chirp that could have been a bird if you didn't know Milo. He was a rescue cat with a knack for making any normal sound feel like he was narrating a documentary about himself. I heard his paws skitter on the hardwood like little dry brushes. When I stepped into the hallway, the building smelled like someone's burnt toast and old radiator heat. My neighbor's door across the hall, 5B, was cracked the width of a finger. Light spilled out, warm and yellow. "Morning," a voice called. I stopped without meaning to. I had learned, in New York, to pretend you didn't hear half the things you heard. People talked to themselves. People argued with imaginary enemies. People sang. But this was normal. A woman's face appeared in the crack. Marion Lee age 62, female. She moved into 5B a month after me and had since appointed herself the hallway's unofficial weather service and package monitor. Her hair was silver and clipped short, her cheeks always a little flushed, like she'd been walking fast even when she hadn't. There were reading glasses perched on top of her head, like she was about to put them on at any second. "You're up early," she said. "Always up early," I lied. "Work." She made a sympathetic noise and opened her door a bit more. I could see a pile of mail on a small table behind her and something simmering on her stove. Onions, maybe. The building was a stack of other people's routines like that. Coffee, soap, cooking, someone's laundry venting out a window. "You get your heat fixed?" she asked. "Heat's fine," I said. It's the bathroom light that's acting up." "Old wiring," she said immediately, pleased to have an explanation. "These buildings, honey, they hum and sputter like they're alive. My grandson says I should move to a new place with amenities. But then what would I complain about?" She smiled. It was a good smile. A smile that made you feel like you were part of the building's little community, even if you didn't know anyone's last name. "Right," I said, and shifted my tote bag higher on my shoulder. The strap cut a thin line into my jacket. "I should," she pointed with her chin toward the stairwell. "Don't take the elevator. It's been making that noise again, like someone dragging a chair. I heard it at 2 in the morning. "Great," I said, but it came out too flat. Her smile thinned as she studied me. "You okay?" I almost told her about the mirror. Not because I thought she'd fix it, because saying something out loud sometimes turns it back into something ordinary. A flicker, bad sleep, cheap LEDs. Instead I said, "Just didn't sleep much," she said, and the sympathy returned, folding over me like a scarf. "Too much worry is a hobby in this city." That landed uncomfortably close to the truth. I nodded, and she let me go. Down the stairs, the building's pipes clicked behind the walls. Someone's phone vibrated on a counter in some other apartment, a mosquito buzz that came and went. At the lobby, I pushed through the heavy glass door and stepped onto the sidewalk. Cold air slapped me awake. Not dramatic, just honest. The kind that dries your nose and makes the inside of your throat feel slightly raw. A delivery truck idled at the curb, diesel, and exhaust mixing with the smell of a bakery vent somewhere down the block. A man in a knit cap walked past with a paper cup of coffee, eyes forward like he was in a hurry to get away from his own thoughts. I headed toward the subway, boots tapping on concrete patched 100 times. I checked my phone again. Still 8:12, but the seconds had moved. Normal. The world was behaving. Then I passed a storefront window. It was a narrow glass pane next to a locksmith, set low enough that it caught you in full. I only glanced because the glass was bright and clean, and because I had an old habit from growing up with braces. Check teeth, check hair, check you don't look like a mess. My reflection was there, me, jacket, tote bag, hair still damp at the roots. And it was late. Not missing. Not wrong in a way you could point at like a broken bone. It was simply behind by a fraction. Like the glass had become a screen with poor refresh rate. My right foot landed. In the glass, my right foot hadn't quite finished landing yet. I stopped so fast a woman almost walked into me. "Jesus," she snapped, and shouldered past with the practiced irritation of someone used to obstacles. My heart made a stupid leap, then settled into a hard, fast rhythm. I stepped closer to the window, pretending to check something in my bag, just to get an excuse to look. The glass showed me in the same posture, but not perfectly. My hand moved in my real-world fingers tightening on the tote strap, and in the window, it followed half a beat later. A train rumbled underground, felt more than heard. The locksmith's neon open sign buzzed. Somewhere above, a radiator vented steam with a short hiss like a sigh. I swallowed and forced myself to do what I always did when something made no sense. Inventory. Could be the angle, could be my eyes, could be the glass itself, a double pane with some weird distortion. Could be I was more tired than I thought. I'd been pushing long hours at the firm, working on a compliance review that had turned into a slow-moving swamp. My boss liked to say, just one more pass, the way gamblers like to say, just one more hand. I lifted my hand again. Fingers spread. Wave. The reflection lifted its hand. Just late. My phone vibrated. I jumped and fumbled it out of my pocket like it was a hot thing. Nina, you up, running behind. Can we do 9:15 instead? Relief flashed through me, plain, simple relief at being pulled back into something normal. Nina was late. Nina was always late. I could be annoyed. I could be accommodating. I could be human. I typed back with my thumbs that felt clumsy in the cold. Sure, I'm near the station. Want me to grab you coffee? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. My reflection in the window stared at my phone a beat after I did. I felt suddenly exposed, standing there in public, watching myself like I was looking for cracks. People flowed around me like water around a rock. No one cared. No one would notice if my reflection was doing cartwheels. They were trying to get to work. They were trying to survive. The thought came uninvited, sharp as a pin. What if it's not the glass? I could go down into the subway and pretend this was nothing. I could keep moving, keep my day intact, keep my world behaving on paper. Or I could do the other thing, the thing I almost never let myself do, because it made me feel weak and irrational, and like I was inviting problems to take up residence. I could turn around, go back upstairs, stand in front of my bathroom mirror again in better light and test it, video it, prove it to myself. Nina's reply buzzed in. Nina, yes PLS. Oat milk. Also, are you okay? You sound off. I stared at the message until the words blurred slightly. Not from tears, just from the way my eyes wanted to protect my brain from having to choose. My private fear, the one I didn't tell people because it sounded melodramatic, pulsed under my ribs, that if I stopped moving for even a second, the thin story of my life, work, friends, rent, routines would split, and something messy and unfixable would leak through. I looked at the subway entrance. I looked back at the direction of my building. In the window, my reflection followed, late by a breath. I took one step toward the subway. Then I stopped. I turned back toward home. I made it back to my building in under 10 minutes, which meant I walked faster than was smart and didn't notice my breathing until it was already shallow and high in my chest. The glass door stuck the way it always did. I shoved harder than necessary, and it swung open with a muted bang that echoed up the stairwell. Inside, the lobby lights flickered once, then steadied. The radiator hissed. Someone's radio murmured behind a door on the first floor news, the rhythm of a voice used to being ignored. I took the stairs 2 at a time. Halfway up to 5, my phone buzzed again. Nina, you disappear. Went back home. Something weird, call me. I typed, then immediately regretted the lack of explanation. I hit send anyway. The call came through before I reached my door. What's wrong? Nina asked, skipping hello. Her voice grounded me in a way I hadn't realized I needed. Nina had a habit of being late and underprepared, but when something actually mattered, she locked in. She was 31, sharp as a tack, and allergic to nonsense, including her own. I think I stopped with my key halfway to the lock. The hallway light buzzed overhead. I think something's wrong with my mirror. There was a pause, not the dramatic kind, the practical kind where someone decides how much patience to spend. Okay, she said. Wrong how? It's lagging. Like my reflection is a half second behind. Another pause. Longer this time. You hit your head, she asked. No. Are you sick? No. Did you sleep? Not much. Are you standing right now? I leaned my forehead briefly against my door, the cool wood seeping into my skin. Yes. Sit down. I'm outside my apartment. Go inside. Sit. If you feel dizzy, call 911. I don't feel dizzy. You sound like you do. I unlocked the door and stepped into my apartment. Milo wove around my ankles, meowing like he'd been abandoned for days instead of 40 minutes. I'm inside, I said. I'm fine. Do you smell anything weird? Nina asked. Gas, chemicals, burning. I paused, inhaled deliberately. Coffee grounds, cat food, the faint mildew note from the bathroom I kept meaning to bleach. No. Okay, she said, and I could hear her moving now, keys, maybe, or shoes. I'm coming over. You don't have to, I'm already late. I can be late in your apartment as easily as a cafe. I didn't argue. That was another private flaw of mine, relief disguised as independence. I hung up and dropped my bag on the chair. The bathroom was at the end of the short hall. The door was open. The light was off. I stood in the living room and looked at the dark rectangle of it, suddenly aware of how quiet my place was. Not ominous quiet, just the ordinary hush of an apartment sealed up against winter, broken by Milo's purring and the distant city hum that filtered through the windows. Okay, I said to no one. We're doing this like an adult. I turned on the bathroom light. The mirror greeted me with my own face, slightly washed out under the LED glare. I stepped closer, heart steady enough. I lifted my hand. This time, the lag was obvious, not dramatic, still not a horror movie thing, but undeniable in the way of a dropped stitch. You can't unsee once you've spotted it. My fingers rose. In the mirror, they followed just a fraction later, enough that my brain tripped over it. Oh, I said. It came out small. I tested again. Faster, slower. I tilted my head. The reflection tracked me, obedient but delayed. Jesus, I muttered. I grabbed my phone and switched to video. The camera app opened without fuss. I aimed it at the mirror and hit record, narrating like a lawyer documenting a scene. Okay, I said, it's 8:34 a.m. Tuesday, this is my bathroom mirror. I lifted my hand into frame and waved. On the screen, the delay was there too, but worse. The phone camera added its own fraction of processing lag, stacking it on top of whatever the mirror was doing. The effect made my stomach tighten. I stopped recording and scrubbed back. Watched again. It wasn't subtle anymore. Great, I whispered. That's great. A knock sounded at the door. I jumped, nearly dropping the phone. Nina came in with a blast of cold air and a paper bag tucked under her arm. She had her hair in a low knot and wore the same coat she always did, the lining frayed at the cuffs. Her eyes went immediately to my face. Show me, she said. I led her down the hall without ceremony. She leaned over the sink, squinting at the mirror like it was a trick image. Do it again. I lifted my hand. Nina's mouth tightened. Huh, right. Okay, she said slowly. First thought, this mirror is garbage. It's been fine for 2 years. Everything is fine until it's not. She reached out and tapped the glass with her knuckle. It made a dull, thick sound. Is it loose? She tugged at the edge. It didn't budge. Could be the light flicker messing with your perception, she went on, already in problem-solving mode. Or your eyes. Or my eyes wouldn't affect the phone video, I said. She didn't like that. I saw it in the way her jaw set. Okay, she said. Let's test another mirror. We went into the bedroom. The closet door had a full-length mirror attached, newer, cleaner. Nina stood beside me this time, watching both me and the glass. I moved. The lag was there too. Nina exhaled through her nose. Okay, that's not ideal. What if it's me? I asked before I could stop myself. Like neurological. She turned to me fully then. Hey, no spiraling. I'm not spiraling. You're cataloging your own failure modes, she said, which is spiraling adjacent. I laughed, a short, brittle sound. I don't have time for this. There it is, she said quietly. My phone buzzed on the bed. Unknown number, I frowned. I don't answer those. Answer it, Nina said. If it's spam, hang up, I answered on speaker. Hello, static, then a voice, male, calm, professional in the way that always makes you listen. Is this Alex? He asked. My stomach dropped at the sound of my name. I hadn't given it to Nina yet, hadn't given it to anyone that morning. Yes, I said. Who is this? This is Officer Daniel Ruiz with the NYPD, he said. I'm calling regarding a report from a local business. Nina's eyes snapped to mine. What kind of report? I asked. A locksmith on your block has exterior security cameras, Ruiz said. This morning, their system flagged a discrepancy. A timestamp mismatch involving you. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. A mismatch how? Nina asked, leaning toward the phone. Ruiz paused. According to the footage, there's a delay between your physical movements and your reflection in the storefront glass. The owner thought the camera was malfunctioning, but it appears consistent across multiple angles. The room felt suddenly too small. Why are you calling me? I asked. Because the same camera also shows someone else, Ruiz said. Someone moving where your reflection should be. It's probably a glitch, but we'd like you to come down to the precinct to take a look. Nina stared at me, her expression gone very still. And, Ruiz added, because that footage was from 30 minutes ago and our system just updated. There's new footage from 5 minutes ago. My throat went dry. From where? From your building's lobby camera, he said, which suggests this is time sensitive. I looked at the mirror across the room. My reflection sat on the bed with me. It didn't blink when I did. We took the stairs down together, fast, but not running, the way people do when they're trying not to draw attention. My building's stairwell curved tight, the paint on the walls layered thick from decades of touch-ups. I kept my eyes on the steps, counting them out of habit, because counting was something I could control. At the bottom, the lobby smelled sharper than usual cleaner and something acrid underneath. Bleach, maybe. A wet floor sign stood crooked near the mailboxes. Someone had mopped recently, leaving dull streaks that caught the overhead fluorescence. Okay, Nina murmured. Where were you when you got the call? Bedroom, I said. Why? She gestured toward the glass entrance door. Because if there's new footage from 5 minutes ago, it's probably from here. I didn't want to look at the glass. That felt childish, but it was true. I could handle mirrors when I was braced for them. Storefronts, bathroom sinks, places where reflections belonged. The lobby door was too casual, too public. Officer Ruiz was already there. He stood near the security console behind the front desk, jacket unzipped, hands relaxed at his sides. mid-30s maybe. Brown hair cut short, eyes alert, but not alarmed. The kind of cop who looked like he listened more than he talked. "Alex," he said, recognizing me immediately. "Thanks for coming down." Nina stayed half a step behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat from her coat sleeve. Ruiz nodded to her. "This your friend?" "Yes," she said before I could answer. "I'm Nina." He gestured toward the monitor. "Mind taking a look?" The screen showed the lobby from two angles, one wide shot of the entrance, one tighter on the mailboxes. The timestamps ran in the corner. Ruiz scrubbed back. "There," he said. On screen, I entered the lobby earlier that morning, pushing the glass door open. The footage was grainy, but clear enough to recognize my jacket, my bag. "Pause," Nina said. Ruiz paused at mid-step. I leaned closer despite myself. My on-screen self was frozen with one foot forward. "Play it frame by frame," Nina said. Ruiz did. The footage advanced in jerks. My body moved. My reflection in the glass door followed. Late, not by much, but enough that you could see it if you were looking for it. Enough that once you saw it, it was all you could see. "That's weird," Ruiz said, not for effect, just stating a fact. "What about the other thing you mentioned?" I asked. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Ruiz hesitated, then rewound further. "This part," he played it again. For a second, nothing jumped out. Then Nina inhaled sharply. "There," she said. In the reflection, my reflection, there was a smear, a shape that didn't match the geometry of the lobby. For one frame, it looked like a person standing where I was. My pulse hammered. "That's it," I said. "That's what you meant." Ruiz held up a hand. "Watch the next frames." He advanced. The shape slid, stretched, then snapped back into alignment with me. "It's refraction," he said. "The door glass is laminated. There's a seam. When the angle changes, it doubles the image." Nina let out a breath. Okay. My knees felt weak with relief and embarrassment all at once. I hadn't even realized how tightly I'd been bracing. "So," I said, "the reflection lag is still there, but the extra person is." "Correct," Ruiz said, "which is good news." He didn't say it fixed anything. "Can we rule out the camera system?" Nina asked. "We checked," Ruiz said. "Timecode S synced. No dropped frames." "Could it be you?" Nina asked me gently. "Like your perception?" I shook my head. "You saw it too." "I know," she said. "I just want to exhaust the boring explanations." Ruiz cleared his throat. "There's one more thing." Of course there was. He pulled up another clip. This one from 5 minutes ago. The lobby was empty, the door closed, the wet floor sign still crooked. Then the door opened. I stepped in. Behind me, still attached, still unmistakably me, my reflection entered a fraction later. But this time, the delay was longer, noticeably longer. "Why is it worse?" I asked. Ruiz's jaw tightened. "That's why I called." Nina checked her watch. "Okay, next step. Hospital." "I'm not going to the ER," I said immediately. "Alex," she said, "I'm not sitting under fluorescent lights for 6 hours waiting to be told I'm anxious." Ruiz didn't contradict me. "We could do a field sobriety style check," he offered. "Reflexes, pupils, balance." "Here?" I asked. "Right here." I agreed because saying no felt like backing away from a cliff edge I couldn't see. The tests were mundane and humiliating. Follow the pen with your eyes. Touch your nose. Walk heel to toe across the lobby tiles, which were uneven enough to trip anyone. I passed. "Vitals are fine," Ruiz said. "No slurred speech. No disorientation." "So now what?" I asked. He glanced at the glass door again. "We need more data, different surfaces, different lighting." Nina's eyes lit with a terrible idea. "The subway," My stomach dropped. "No, Alex," she said. "It's wall-to-wall reflective surfaces. Stainless steel, windows, turnstiles, and cameras everywhere. And crowds," I said, "and delays. That's the point." Ruiz hesitated. "I can escort you partway. Keep things calm." I thought of my private fear again, the one about stopping, about things unraveling. I was already unraveling. The only way out was through. "Fine," I said. We walked the 2 blocks to the station, the city pressing in close. I became hyper-aware of every reflective surface, parked cars, darkened shop windows, even puddles from last night's melted snow. At the turnstiles, Nina watched my reflection in the steel while I watched her face. "Still lagging," she said. "About half a second now." On the platform, a train roared past without stopping, wind snapping my jacket against my legs. Sound vibrated through my bones. This was the misdirection moment, the one that almost broke me. In the train's black windows, my reflection fractured into a dozen overlapping versions of myself, each delayed differently. It looked like I was multiplying, peeling apart. I staggered back. "Alex," Nina said sharply. "Look at me." I did. "It's the windows," she said. "The train's moving. The reflections are layered. Breathe." I did. "In, out." The train pulled away. The reflections collapsed back into one. I laughed, a little hysterically. Okay, that one's on me." But the lag didn't go away. On the platform bench, I sat down hard. My legs ached. My head throbbed. I realized I hadn't eaten anything since yesterday afternoon. "I can't keep doing this," I said quietly. Nina crouched in front of me. "You don't have to alone." Ruiz's radio crackled. He listened, then swore under his breath. "What?" I asked. "There's a power fluctuation reported in your building," he said. "Elevator stalled between floors. Fire departments en route." My stomach sank. "Marion," he nodded. "She was last seen entering the elevator this morning." A choice slammed into place, heavy and final. If I went back to my building now, into a stalled elevator, into enclosed metal and mirrored walls, there would be no pretending this was academic. If I didn't, someone else would pay the price for my hesitation. "I'm going back," I said. Nina grabbed my arm. "Alex, I know," I said. "I can't not." The point of no return didn't feel dramatic. It felt like stepping off a curb without looking. The fire truck was already there when we got back, red lights stuttering against the brick like a bad pulse. Yellow tape cut the lobby in half. The smell of ozone hung in the air, sharp and metallic, layered over the bleach from earlier. "Which floor?" Ruiz asked a firefighter. "Between 4 and 5, the firefighter said. "Cars dead. Emergency lights only." My chest tightened. 4 and 5. Marion's floor. "I'm going up," I said. Nina grabbed my sleeve. "Alex." "I know," I said. "I know. But she talked to me this morning." Ruiz looked between us, then nodded once. "Stairs only. Don't touch anything you don't have to." The stairwell felt narrower than it had an hour ago. The paint flakes caught at my palms as I used the railing to pull myself faster. Somewhere above, metal groaned, a long, tired sound. We reached the 4th floor landing. The elevator doors there were closed, but the seam between them glowed faintly with emergency light. "Marion," I called a beat then. "I'm here." Her voice was steady. Too steady. "I'm okay," she added quickly, like she knew what I'd hear in the pause. "We're here," Nina said. "Fire department's working on it." "They keep telling me that," Marion said. "I believe them." The firefighters pried the outer doors open enough to see the car stuck a few feet above the landing. The inner car door was closed. Through the narrow gap, I could see the elevator's interior wall brushed steel, scuffed with decades of rings and keys. A mirror. My reflection stared back at me from it. Late. The lag had stretched into something obscene. I lifted my hand and counted under my breath 1, 2 before the reflection followed. It was like watching a thought arrive after the feeling had already passed. "Alex," Nina said softly. "Don't." "I have to," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. A firefighter leaned toward the gap. "Ma'am, we're going to open the car door manually. It may take a minute." "I'm not panicking," Marion said. "I just don't like not knowing what's happening." I swallowed. "Marion," I said, keeping my eyes on her, not the mirror. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." "Don't look at the walls," I said. "Just look at me, okay?" There was a pause, then, quietly, "All right." The firefighter started cranking the manual release. Metal protested. The car shuddered. My reflection moved. Not wrong, not monstrous, just off. When I leaned forward, it didn't lean, it watched. When I stepped back, it stepped, but too late, like it had decided after the fact. My heart slammed. My hands shook. "Alex," Ruiz said, "close now. Talk to me." "I think it's feedback," I said. The words tumbled out. Visual feedback. Like when a microphone squeals because it hears itself. Nina's eyes flicked to the mirror, then back to me. "So what do? "We break the loop," I said. "That mirror is part of the elevator car," a firefighter said. "We don't." "I'll do it," I said, already moving. "Alex," Nina snapped. I didn't answer. I grabbed the fire extinguisher off the wall with both hands. It was heavier than I expected. My wrists screamed. "Ma'am," the firefighter warned. "I'm sorry," I said to no one in particular, and swung. The glass didn't shatter cleanly. Spiderwebbed with a gunshot crack, then collapsed inward in chunks, raining down with a sound like hail on a tin roof. Shards skittered across the car floor. The reflection vanished. So did my balance. I pitched forward, foot slipping on the landing edge. Hands grabbed me, Ruiz, Nina, someone else, and hauled me back as my shins slammed into the metal doorframe. Pain flared hot and immediate. Inside the car, Marion gasped. Oh my." "Ma'am, stay back," the firefighter said, firm. "We're almost there." The car lurched, then dropped an inch with a stomach-turning thud. The inner door finally peeled open. Marion stepped out slowly, clutching her purse like it was a life raft. Her eyes went to the broken mirror, the glass on the floor. "What on earth?" she said. "You're safe," Nina said, guiding her away. "That's what matters." I slid down the wall and sat, shaking. My leg throbbed. Blood seeped through my jeans in a dark bloom. Ruiz crouched in front of me. "Stay with me." "I am," I said, though my teeth chattered. "Is it?" I glanced toward the car. The broken mirror reflected nothing, just jagged light. The firefighters finished securing the elevator. Someone wrapped my leg. Someone else pressed a paper cup of water into my hands. The adrenaline drained, leaving me hollowed out. They took Marion downstairs. She squeezed my shoulder as she passed. "Thank you," she said, eyes shining. "I don't know what you did, but thank you." I nodded, unable to speak. Later time blurred, then reassembled. They put me in the back of an ambulance. Not lights and sirens, just careful. Nina rode with me, her knee bouncing, fingers tight around mine. In the ambulance's small mirrored cabinet, my reflection moved when I did. On time, I laughed, then hissed when it pulled at my leg. The sound came out broken. "You okay?" Nina asked. "I think so," I said. "I think it stopped." She watched me, searching. At what cost? I looked down at my leg. At the dried blood. At the tremor I couldn't quite control. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. The doors closed. The city noise dulled. The ride began. In the metal surface above me, my reflection followed, faithful now, but changed. We both were. The hospital stitched me up and sent me home with instructions printed in gray ink that smelled faintly of toner and disinfectant. 12 stitches along the shin. No fracture. Avoid strenuous activity, the resident said, like that was a reasonable request. He asked me how I fell. I told him I slipped during a rescue. That was true enough. He didn't ask what I'd rescued. Nina stayed until they discharged me, then walked me back to my apartment, slow because of my leg, slower because neither of us wanted to say goodbye yet. The building looked the same from the outside: brick, tired cornices, a banner advertising a yoga studio 2 blocks down. But inside it felt rearranged, like furniture moved an inch to the left. The elevator was taped off. A handwritten sign said "out of service, PARTSON order." Someone had drawn a sad face in the corner. Marion's door was open. She sat at her small table with a cup of tea, wrapped in a cardigan that looked older than me. When she saw us, she stood, then thought better of it and waved. "They told me to take it easy," she said, as if apologizing for being alive. "Imagine that." "You okay?" Nina asked. Marion nodded, a little shaken. "But my grandson's coming by tonight." She looked at me, then away. "I keep thinking about that sound the glass made." I did too. The crack that wasn't a shatter, the way the mirror had given up all at once. "I'm sorry about your elevator," I said. She patted my hand. "It's just a thing. You did a brave thing." Then, more quietly, "You should get some rest." Back upstairs, my apartment smelled like cat food and the lemon cleaner Nina favored. She set my pain meds on the counter in a careful line, like an offering. Milo inspected my bandage with suspicion and then settled on my chest, heavy and warm. The first night, I didn't sleep much. That wasn't new. What was new was the way I kept the bathroom door open, the light on, so the mirror couldn't surprise me. When I finally did get up to pee at 3 in the morning, I moved slowly, testing each motion like a swimmer entering cold water. The mirror followed me. On time, I lifted my hand. It lifted with me. I blinked. It blinked back. The LED still buzzed faintly. The silvering was still dark at the edges. Everything was ordinary in the way of objects that had always been slightly wrong, but never dangerous. I filmed it again. The phone showed what my eyes saw. No lag. I sent the video to Nina with a single word: normal. She replied with a heart, and then, 10 minutes later, get sleep. The legal part came next. Officer Ruiz called to take a statement. He asked me to walk him through the morning again, slow this time. He asked what I'd noticed first, where I'd been standing, whether I'd felt dizzy or confused. "Just tired," I said. He made a sound that wasn't agreement. "The locksmith's cameras are being recalibrated. The building manager's filing an insurance claim for the elevator." He paused. "We're not charging you for the mirror." "That's generous," I said. "You saved someone," he said. "Also, it's hard to put intent on breaking something during a rescue." When he left, I sat on my couch and stared at the blank TV screen until my own reflection stared back. The black glass did the thing black glass does. It gave yourself darker and slightly farther away. Still on time. At work, they told me to take the rest of the week. My boss said liability and focus on recovery, which meant he didn't want to be the person who'd pushed someone with stitches to keep working. I spent the days on the couch, leg elevated, pain dull and manageable, the city pressing against the windows like always. Nina came by every day with groceries and updates, and a fierce competence that felt like shelter. On Thursday, she sat cross-legged on the floor and asked, gently, "Are you scared?" "Yes," I said without thinking. "Of what?" I searched for the word. "Of stopping." She nodded like that made sense. "You stopped this time." I looked at my leg. The stitches itched. It stopped me. That still counts. By the weekend, the building had replaced the elevator mirror with a dull panel of brushed metal that showed nothing clearly. The manager posted a notice about temporary measures. The stairs grew busier. People complained. Life adjusted. I tested myself the way people do when they've been rattled. Store windows, car doors, the dark screen of my phone. I watched for the hitch, the breath of delay. It didn't come. The absence became its own noise, like the high-pitched whine you only hear when it stops. On Sunday evening, I stood at my kitchen sink, rinsing a mug, watching the city through the window over the counter. The glass there wasn't meant to reflect. It caught you by accident. A ghost layered over fire escapes and lit rectangles. I turned my head. For a fraction of a second, my reflection didn't. It was so small I almost missed it. So plausible I could have blamed my eyes. The kind of thing you could live with if you wanted to. My heart kicked, then settled. I set the mug down carefully. I didn't test it again. I didn't raise my hand. I watched the city instead, the way a bus sighed at the corner, the way someone laughed too loud 2 floors down, the way the radiator ticked like a watch that needed winding. When Nina texted dinner, I typed back yes and hit send. In the bathroom, the light buzzed. The mirror waited. I turned it off. And that's the end of today's chilling tale. If you enjoyed this story and want more nights full of suspense, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and turn on the bell so you never miss a scare. I've got plenty more stories waiting for you, so stick around and check out the other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe and don't look behind you.